Welcome back to Z Coins. If you're a coin collector, treasure hunter, or just someone who loves American history, you're going to want to watch this entire video. Because today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating coins to spark curiosity in the numismatic world, the so-called 1937 W1 dime coin. Now, before we get too far, let's address the mystery. Many people report finding or hearing about a 1937 dime marked with a W mint mark. But here's the twist. Officially, the United States Mint never produced a Roosevelt dime in 1937, and the W mint mark wasn't used on dimes during that era either. So what's going on here? To understand this, we have to go back in time to the 1930s. The dime design at the time was the Mercury dime, officially known as the Winged Liberty Head dime, designed by Adolph A. Weinman. It ran from 1916 all the way through 1945. These dimes are loved for their beauty and for the rich history they represent. The mint marks you'll find on genuine 1937 Mercury dimes include D for Denver and S for San Francisco, with Philadelphia minted coins having no mint mark at all. But no W. The W mint mark, representing the West Point Mint, didn't appear on U.S. coins until decades later and only in very specific, limited cases. So if you have a 1937 dime with what looks like a W on it, what does that mean? There are a few possibilities. First, it could be a misread mint mark, perhaps a worn D or S that has been mistaken for a W. Could also be post-mint damage, or even a novelty or fantasy piece made for collectors. In some cases, private mints or individuals have altered coins as souvenirs or as part of art projects. These are not considered legal tender by numismatists, but can still hold collectible interest depending on rarity and demand. Let's now talk value. A genuine 1937 Mercury dime, in circulated condition, is typically worth between $2 and $5 based on its silver content alone. That's because it's composed of 90% silver. But here's where it gets interesting. Higher-grade 1937 Mercury dimes, we're talking about coins in mint state condition, or even better with full bands on the fasces, can fetch anywhere from $50 to several $100s at auction. A 1937 S dime in MS67 full bands, for example, could easily go for over $1,000 depending on demand. Now, when it comes to coins marked with the mysterious W, if they are determined to be authentic mint errors or unique collectibles, they can go for significantly more. However, this is very rare. Most of the time, coins like these are classified as altered or fantasy coins. And while they don't hold traditional numismatic value, collectors may still pay a premium if the piece is interesting, rare, or visually striking. Think of it like rare art. Value comes down to demand and perceived uniqueness. But there's another factor at play. The market for error coins, fantasy issues, and oddities is growing rapidly. As more collectors enter the hobby, unusual coins, even those not officially minted, can bring surprising prices. Just look at recent online auctions and collector forums. Coins with interesting backstories, visual quirks, or mystery origins are catching fire. A dime with a strange mint mark, especially from a well-loved year like 1937, could attract competitive bidding if marketed well. So what should you do if you come across a coin like this? First, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value in the eyes of collectors. Next, try to get it examined by a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These organizations can help determine if what you have is a genuine error, a fantasy coin, or simply a misread piece. And once you have that authentication, you're in a much better position to sell, trade, or simply treasure the coin as part of your collection. In terms of current market value, here's what we're seeing. Circulated 1937 Mercury dimes are selling online for $5 to $15 depending on condition. High-grade versions can sell for hundreds. Fantasy or altered coins with unusual markings can range widely in price, from a few dollars to several hundred, depending entirely on collector demand and presentation. There have been reports of unusual 1937 dimes selling for over $1,000, but these are outliers and often involve either rare mint errors or aggressive collectors. The silver value alone is something to consider too. With silver currently hovering around $25 to $30 per ounce, each 1937 dime has around $2 of melt value. So at the very least, you're holding something with intrinsic worth. But for collectors, the real value is in the story, the mystery, and the possibility that you just might have something that no one else does. Let's recap. The 1937 W1 dime is not a known official U.S. mint issue. However, 1937 Mercury dimes are real and collectible, especially in high grade. If you believe you've found a W-marked dime from 1937, it's most likely a post-mint alteration or novelty coin, but it still could hold value as a collectible oddity. Always consult with experts and never underestimate how much someone might pay for a piece of American coin history, especially if it comes with a mystery. If you love coins, old currency, or just rare pieces of American history, you're in the right place today. We're diving into the world of the 1942 one-dime coin, also known as the 1942 Mercury dime. This coin may look small, but don't let its size fool you. It holds a big piece of history, and in some cases a lot of value too. The story begins in the early 20th century when the United States Mint introduced a new design for the 10-cent piece. In 1916, the Mercury dime was born, officially called the Winged Liberty head dime. This coin features a portrait of Lady Liberty wearing a winged cap, a symbol of freedom of thought. It was designed by Adolph A. Weinman, and it quickly became a favorite among collectors and the public. Fast forward to 1942, America was deep in the grip of World War II, and everything from coins to newspapers to cars was being shaped by the war effort. This year's Mercury dime became more than just spare change. It was a symbol of strength and liberty, minted during one of the most intense moments in global history. There were three main mint locations producing dimes in 1942: Philadelphia, which had no mint mark; Denver, which used a small D; and San Francisco, which used an S. While the majority of these coins were produced in huge numbers, making them fairly common, there are a few rare variations that are incredibly valuable and sought after by collectors around the world. One of the most famous and valuable versions of the 1942 Mercury dime is the 1942/41 error. This variety occurred when a die that had already been stamped with the 1941 date was accidentally overpunched with 1942. This resulted in a clear and visible overdate on the coin, and these error dimes are incredibly rare and valuable. Depending on their condition, these coins can fetch thousands of dollars at auction, but even if you don't have the overdate version, the 1942 Mercury dime still has some value, especially if it's in high-grade condition. Coins that are uncirculated or in mint state condition with minimal wear can be worth $20 to $50, and in some cases even more. Let's talk about metal content. The Mercury dime is made of 90% silver and 10% copper. That means even if your coin is in rough condition, it still has intrinsic value simply because of the silver content. As of today's silver prices, even a heavily worn 1942 Mercury dime is worth at least a couple of dollars in melt value alone. Now let's get into some recent sales and market trends in the past few years. Collectors have paid big bucks for high-grade or rare 1942 dimes. A 1942/41 Mercury dime graded MS65 by PCGS sold for over $20,000. Another in proof condition has sold for even more. When it comes to these coins, condition is everything, and a tiny difference in grading can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value. So how do you know if you have one of the rare ones? Start by checking the date very carefully. Look for signs of doubling, especially on the one in the year 1941 that's been overpunched. You'll also want to look for coins with strong strikes, good luster, and no damage or heavy, where if you think you have something special, it's worth getting it authenticated and graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGCN. Here's something else to keep in mind. The coin market is strong right now, especially for silver coins with historical significance. With inflation rising and more people investing in tangible assets, collectibles like old coins have been growing in popularity. That means even common coins in better condition are going up in value. If you're lucky enough to have a full roll of Mercury dimes, especially from 1942, it might be time to take a closer look. You never know what rare gem might be hiding in plain sight. To wrap it all up, the 1942 Mercury dime is a classic piece of American numismatic history. Whether you're holding one with a rare overdate error or just a clean, shiny example from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, this coin captures a moment in time, and depending on condition, it could be worth anywhere from a couple of dollars to several thousand. So check your old coin jars, look through inherited collections, and visit your local coin shop. Who knows, you might just uncover a piece of history that's also worth a fortune. We're diving into one of the most fascinating coins in American history, the 1945 Roosevelt dime with the elusive W mint mark. If you're holding on to one of these or think you've spotted one in your change jar, you might just be sitting on a small fortune. So stick around as we go through its full history, its incredible value, and how much it's selling for in today's market. Let's begin with the background. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in April of 1945. The dime was chosen as a tribute to Roosevelt because of his connection to the March of Dimes, an organization created to fight polio, the very disease Roosevelt himself battled for most of his adult life. So although the Roosevelt dime officially entered circulation in 1946, its roots go back to the year 1945, and that's where things get very interesting. Now here's where the confusion often begins. Many people claim to have seen or even owned a 1945 Roosevelt dime, but officially, there was no Roosevelt dime minted in 1945. That year, the U.S. Mint was still producing the Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. The Roosevelt dime only started in 1946, so if you have a dime with Roosevelt's portrait and the date 1945 on it, you found something extremely unusual. There are a few explanations for this. One possibility is a misread date due to wear or damage on a 1946 coin. Another possibility, and this is much more rare, is an error coin, such as a misstrike or a pattern test coin. These are experimental coins not meant for public circulation but occasionally escape into the wild. And then there's the legend of the so-called 1945 Roosevelt dime with a W mint mark. Let's talk about that. The W mint mark would suggest that the coin was minted at West Point. But here's the catch. West Point didn't start striking coins for general circulation until much later. It was originally used for gold storage and only began producing circulating coins in the 1970s and 1980s. So if you truly find a Roosevelt dime with the year 1945 and a W mint mark, you may be in possession of a privately altered coin or, and this is the holy grail, an extremely rare pattern coin that somehow got released. These are known as fantasy coins in many cases, especially if they are not authenticated. However, there are verified error coins from the 1940s that have sold for thousands, and sometimes tens of thousands of dollars at auction. Now let's talk about value. If what you have is a regular Roosevelt dime dated 1946 or later, even in circulated condition, it's still worth something because these early dimes were made of 90% silver. That's right. Any Roosevelt dime from 1946 to 1964 contains silver and has intrinsic value just from the metal alone. At today's silver prices, which are hovering around $25 to $30 per ounce, one of these dimes is worth at least $2 to $3 even in worn condition. But if you've got a 1945 Roosevelt dime, or what appears to be one, especially with any unusual mint mark like W, D, or S, you absolutely need to get it authenticated by a professional coin grading service such as PCGS or NGC. If they verify that the coin is real and unique, its value could skyrocket. Auction houses have been known to sell similar coins for anywhere from $5,000 to over $20,000, depending on condition and rarity. Let's look at some examples. A known error Roosevelt dime struck on a planchet from the wrong year or with a double die can sell for several $100s even in low grades. A high-grade 1946 Roosevelt dime with full bands on the torch can reach $1,000 or more if graded mint state 67 or above. But again, a verified pattern coin from 1945 would dwarf all of these in value. So what's the current market like in 2025? Silver prices are relatively strong, which means all pre-1965 dimes are getting more attention from collectors. Additionally, there's been a surge of interest in rare coins thanks to social media, YouTube, TikTok, and forums where collectors are sharing discoveries. That means demand is up and so are prices. Even common-date silver dimes are going for higher premiums than usual. If you want to sell one of these rare dimes, your best bet is to first verify its authenticity, then look at recent auction records on platforms like Heritage Auctions or eBay. You'll want to compare not just the date and mint mark, but the grade, condition, and whether the coin has any errors. Some coin shops and pawn shops may undervalue these coins, so doing your own research is key. Before we wrap up, let's go over some quick tips. Number 1, check every Roosevelt dime you find for dates from 1946 to 1964. These are the silver ones. Number 2, if you think you have a Roosevelt dime with the date 1945, do not clean it or try to alter it in any way. That can ruin its value. Number 3, get it graded by a reputable service. And number 4, keep an eye on silver prices because that affects the baseline value of all early dimes. To sum it all up, the 1945 Roosevelt dime with a W mint mark is not officially recognized as a circulated coin, but any such coin that exists could be a major rarity. Even the rumor of it has sparked massive curiosity and speculation. Whether it's a true pattern coin or a clever alteration, it's worth investigating. And even if all you have is a 1946 or 1947 silver dime, it's still worth more than face value and could be part of a valuable set if kept in good condition. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of coin collecting, and we've got a special focus on a small coin with a big story, the 1994 Roosevelt dime. This little piece of American currency might look like any other dime you'd find in your pocket, but under the right circumstances, it could be worth a surprising amount of money. So stick around as we explore its history, key features, and current market value. Let's start with the background. The Roosevelt dime has been a cornerstone of U.S. coinage since 1946. It was introduced to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death. His face was chosen for the dime because of his founding role in the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio, which he himself had battled. Since then, the Roosevelt dime has remained unchanged in design, but its composition, minting practices, and collector interest have certainly evolved over the decades. Now, what makes the 1994 Roosevelt dime special? First, it's important to know that the 1994 version was not a coin made for general circulation. Instead, it was a proof coin. Proof coins are specially made for collectors and are struck with extra care using polished dies and planchets to ensure a sharp, mirror-like finish. The mint mark on the 1994 dime means it was minted in San Francisco, which exclusively produces these high-quality proof coins. These coins were only included in the 1994 United States mint proof sets, which collectors could purchase directly from the mint. Because of that, the 1994 dimes never saw circulation and were preserved in much better condition than your average dime. Most of them are found in grades of proof 65 or higher, with many reaching up to proof 69 or even the perfect grade of proof 70. The total mintage of the 1994 Roosevelt proof dime was approximately 2,617,000. While that number might sound high at first, it's actually quite low compared to the hundreds of millions of regular circulation dimes struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. And since these were only available in proof sets, their survival in pristine condition is relatively high, but finding one in flawless condition still remains a challenge. What about the value? Well, here's where it gets interesting. If you find a standard 1994 Roosevelt dime in typical proof condition, it may fetch around $1 to $3. That's a small premium over face value, but it's just the beginning. A high-grade example, especially one that's been professionally graded and slabbed by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC, can be worth a lot more. For instance, a 1994 Roosevelt dime graded proof 70 deep cameo, which is the highest grade possible and features deeply mirrored fields and frosted devices, can sell for between $75 to over $100 depending on the market and demand. In fact, record sales have shown these dimes can sometimes break even higher. In some cases, a perfect PR70 DCAM example has sold for over $150 at auction. That's right, a 10-cent coin fetching over 100 times its face value simply because of its condition and rarity at that grade level. But what makes a coin hit those higher values? It's all about condition, demand, and certified grading. Coins that are flawless under magnification, with strong contrast between the mirror-like fields and the frosted details, are in highest demand. Collectors who build registry sets, which are competitive graded collections, are always on the hunt for perfect specimens to improve their rankings. And that demand can drive prices up significantly. Let's also talk about errors and varieties. While the 1994 Roosevelt dime is not known for major mint errors, any proof coin with mistakes like doubling, off-center strikes, or cameo anomalies can add a serious premium. A rare proof error is like hitting the jackpot for coin collectors because it combines rarity with a story, the story of how that coin slipped past strict quality control processes. If you think you might have one of these coins, the first thing to check is the mint mark. Look for the S just above the date on the obverse side of the coin. Then examine its condition. If it appears mirror-like with sharp detail, there's a good chance it's a proof. If you suspect it's in excellent shape, especially if it looks flawless under a magnifying glass, it may be worth getting it graded by a professional service. But remember, not all proof coins are valuable. Common condition coins may still only bring a small premium unless they meet those very high-grade standards. Still, the beauty of coin collecting lies in the hunt. You never know what you'll find in a proof set purchased from a garage sale or inherited from a relative. In terms of market trends today, interest in modern proof coins remains strong, particularly for collectors looking to complete high-grade registry sets. The 1994 Roosevelt dime sits in a sweet spot. It's modern enough to be affordable, but limited enough to be desirable. That keeps demand relatively steady, especially for coins in top-tier condition. So, whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just starting out, the 1994 Roosevelt dime is a great example of how even the smallest coins can have big stories and surprising value. It's a testament to the legacy of FDR, the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint, and the vibrant community of collectors who keep the passion alive. We're diving into the fascinating world of coin collecting, and we have a special focus on the 1994 Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it might look like just another ordinary 10-cent piece you find in your change, but what if I told you that some of these coins could actually be worth far more than their face value? That's right, a small, unassuming coin sitting in your pocket or piggy bank might just be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on a few key factors. So stay with me as we explore the full history of the 1994 Roosevelt dime, what makes it valuable, how to identify rare versions, and the current market prices collectors are paying in 2025. Let's begin with a bit of history. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was a beloved figure known for leading the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II. In honor of his leadership and his association with the March of Dimes, a campaign to fight polio, his portrait replaced the previous winged Liberty design, also known as the Mercury dime. The Roosevelt dime has remained in circulation since then, and the design has changed very little over the decades. The obverse features the profile of Roosevelt facing left with the word Liberty above his head, "In God We Trust" to the left, and the date along the lower right side. The reverse side shows a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Now let's fast forward to 1994. This was a year that saw millions of Roosevelt dimes produced by the Philadelphia Mint, which is what the P Mint mark represents. In fact, the U.S. Mint struck over 1.4 billion of these dimes that year, making it one of the more common years in terms of total mintage. So with so many made, what makes the 1994 P dime potentially valuable? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, and error varieties. Let's talk about condition. First, most 1994 P dimes found in circulation today will be worth their face value of 10 cents. That's because they're worn, scratched, and show signs of age. However, uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS-65 and higher by professional coin grading services, can command a premium. MS stands for mint state and refers to coins that have never been used in commerce. An MS-65 dime will have strong luster, few marks, and excellent detail. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. As of mid-2025, a 1994 P Roosevelt dime graded MS-67 can sell for anywhere between $25 and $60 depending on the market demand. An MS-68 example, which is much harder to find, can fetch upwards of $200 or more. That's a huge jump from just 10 cents. Now let's move into the exciting territory of error coins. This is where things get really interesting. Every year some coins come off the minting presses with mistakes, and these errors can turn an ordinary coin into a rare collectible. With the 1994 P dime, collectors have identified several noteworthy error types. One of the most famous is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned during the striking process. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, the coin can become significantly more valuable. A 1994 P Roosevelt dime with a 50% off-center strike and full date visible can easily be worth over $150 to $300 to the right collector. Another valuable error is the broad strike error. This occurs when a coin is struck without the collar that gives it its standard circular shape. The result is a wider and flatter coin that looks stretched. Broad strike 1994 P dimes in uncirculated condition can sell for $50 or more. There are also examples of double die errors where the design elements appear doubled, especially on the lettering or Roosevelt's profile. Though rare, if you find a 1994 P dime with clear doubling, it could bring hundreds of dollars, especially if authenticated by a grading service. Let's not forget about missing clad layer errors. Modern dimes are made from a clad composition of copper and nickel. Sometimes the outer nickel layer is missing from one side of the coin, revealing a dull reddish copper color. Missing clad layer on a 1994 P dime can raise its value to $100 or more, depending on condition. Now here's a crucial tip for collectors. Always check the mint mark and the date. Look closely with a magnifying glass or microscope. Many error coins are hard to spot with the naked eye. Also, consider having your coin professionally graded if you suspect it might be valuable. The most trusted grading companies include PCGS and NGC. These companies will verify the authenticity of the coin, assign it a grade, and seal it in a protective holder, which can dramatically increase its resale value. So what is the current market value of the 1994 P Roosevelt dime as of 2025? Let's Break it down. A worn circulated coin is worth 10 cents. An uncirculated example in MS65 might be worth between $5 and $15 in MS67. You're looking at $30 to $60 in MS68. Values can exceed $200. Rare error coins such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, missing clad layers, or double dies can range anywhere from $50 up to $500 in some cases, or even more if the error is dramatic and the coin is in pristine condition. The bottom line is this: while most 1994p Roosevelt dimes are common and not particularly valuable, a small number of them can be worth significantly more due to their condition or minting errors. It's worth taking the time to look closely at your change and search through your coin jars. You never know what kind of treasure might be hiding in plain sight. And remember, coin collecting is not just about finding valuable coins, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the beauty of the designs, and the connection to history. Even a 10-cent coin can tell a story that spans generations. We're diving deep into a small coin with a big story, the 2005p Roosevelt dime. You might be surprised to learn how much this little piece of metal could be worth today. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the full history, hidden details, and current market trends that make this coin a must-watch for collectors and casual viewers alike. So let's get right into it. The Roosevelt dime has been a part of American coinage since 1946, replacing the Mercury dime after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was a beloved figure who led the country through the Great Depression and most of World War II, and the dime was chosen specifically because of his association with the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio, a disease he himself battled for most of his adult life. Now fast forward to 2005, and we find ourselves looking at a coin that, at first glance, seems just like any other 10-cent piece. But the Roosevelt 2005p dime is more than just spare change. The P on the coin stands for Philadelphia, where the coin was minted. Over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes were produced at the Philadelphia Mint in 2005, so at face value, it might not seem rare. But here's the twist. Not all coins are created equal. Let's talk about varieties and errors, the real heart of any collectible coin's value. Some 2005p dimes are worth far more than their face value because of minting mistakes and high-quality strikes. Collectors are especially drawn to coins with sharp details and flawless surfaces, known as coins in mint state condition. In grading terms, these are usually listed as MS or mint state followed by a number. An MS60 is a low-end uncirculated coin, while an MS68 or higher is almost perfect. Now here's where things get exciting. A regular 2005p dime in circulated condition is still worth just 10 cents. But when you find one in high-grade condition, especially in MS67 or MS68, the value can jump significantly. Some of these coins have sold for up to $25, $40, or even over $100 depending on the grade and condition. That's right. A dime that's barely bigger than a thumbnail could be worth 10 times, 20 times, even 100 times its face value. But there's more. Some error coins from the 2005p series have become highly sought after. Look out for off-center strikes, where the coin isn't aligned properly during minting. These can sell for $50 to $200 depending on how dramatic the error is. Another big one is the double die error, where the image or lettering appears slightly doubled. These are rare, but when found, they can command serious money, often starting at $75 and going up from there. Still, the most valuable versions of the 2005p Roosevelt dime are the ones graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC. A 2005p dime graded MS68 by PCGS once sold at auction for over $250. Why? Because it was nearly flawless, perfectly struck, and had eye appeal that collectors love. Let's not forget the importance of full bands. This is a term used for the reverse side of the dime, specifically the torch. If the horizontal bands at the top and bottom of the torch are fully separated and well-defined, the coin is said to have full bands, which adds a premium to the price. A 2005p dime with full bands and high mint state grade could easily reach $100 or more. Now you might be asking, how do I know if I have a valuable one? Start by checking the date and mint mark. If you see 2005 with a P underneath the year, you've got the right coin. Then examine the coin closely under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look for sharp details, no scratches, and if you're lucky, possible errors like doubling or off-center strikes. If the coin looks perfect to the naked eye, it might be worth submitting to a grading service, especially if you think it could grade MS67 or higher. So where's the market today? As of June 2025, the current market for Roosevelt dimes is steady, with prices holding strong for high-grade and error coins. eBay listings show slabbed MS-68 dimes selling between $70 and $150, while raw examples with strong details and luster can go for $10 to $30 if marketed well. Error coins continue to attract attention, with collectors always on the hunt for something unique. Now a final note, the Roosevelt dime may be common, but coins like the 2005 P dime prove that even the smallest pieces of change can hide serious value. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned numismatist, it pays, literally, to pay attention to your pocket change. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss future coin videos. Got a 2005 dime in your collection? Drop a comment below and let us know. See you in the next one, and happy collecting.